Ragin Cajuns baseball picks up a weekend sweep over Maryland. Let's recap the series here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, people, and welcome into another episode here on Ragin Rundown, the show where you will know all things UL athletics. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you can always call me Fitz. Before we get rolling, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed, like the video, share it, and leave a comment down below. If you're listening on podcast, make sure you follow the feed, rate us, and leave a review as well, because it may seem small, but it's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. And in today's episode, we are recapping Louisiana baseball, picking up a weekend sweep against Maryland. And they were able to do it in multiple different ways. Two of them, to be exact, were in walk-off fashion, including here on Sunday as I'm recording this episode, was a walk-off victory for them as well, going into late extra innings for how it all went down. It improved Louisiana to 5-2 on the season. Obviously, they started off the year losing the first two games against Missouri State, being 0-2. Since then, they've won their last 5 games. They won the final game against Missouri State. They beat Rice on Tuesday and then swept this series to improve in 5-2. In the weekend, Louisiana would outscore Maryland 22-12. They out-hit the Terps 35-21. And like I mentioned, they had 2 walk-off wins as well, including the 15-inning marathon. So we learned a lot of things about what this team is. And instead of me going game by game and trying to recap the entire play-by-play, we're going to go some themes and takeaways that we took away from each one of these individual games. The first takeaway is that this team has legit late game toughness. The Cajuns would win game 1, 7-6 on a walk-off bases loaded walk by Blaze Rodriguez. We're going to talk more about him later on. But he was able to draw that bases loaded walk to ultimately win that game. The Cajuns trailed 6-3 entering the 9th inning of that ball game. And then once they got to that inning, Griffin Hebert would be walked on a 3-2 count. He would be walked. Then Leamade would be walked, putting those two on. Maryland had a mound visit. Rigoberto Hernandez comes in. He singles to left. That loads the bases. In comes Trip Dobson to pinch hit for Drew Markle. Dobson would single to left on an 0-2 count. That would bring in Griffin Hebert, and then you have the bases loaded once again. So now it would be 6-4. After that, Owen Galt would be hit by pitch. That scores a run. Maddox Mendino would be walked. That now ties it. And then after that, Blaze Rodriguez would get the game-winning walk to put Louisiana on top in a literal walk-off fashion. Rigoberto Hernandez had 2 hits in this game. Steven Spalita had 2 hits as well. And Tyler Pappenbrock would come in for 1 2/3 of innings from the mound, and he was able to go scoreless innings to get his first Division I victory. This team did not panic in all of this, and it would be very easy to going into the final inning in an opportunity where if you don't get it, you lose this game on a Friday night, very similar to what you had done the night before. And what they were able to prove is that they had really, really good plate discipline. When you're down in a game, you start feeling like, hey, I need to make a play. Somebody needs to step up to make a play right now. None of these guys felt like they needed to do that. They felt like we can do this as a team, and they were able to do it. They all did a job, whether that was sitting there and waiting for the right pitch, or in their cases, taking a hit, being walked, and just being okay saying whatever we need to do to pick up the victory is what we're going to do. And that's what they did. Good teams are always going to believe that they're never out of a game. When I first started covering baseball, I would see a team be down like 10-3 and all this stuff like that. And, I quickly learned that a game is never over, especially when it's a good team that's out there playing, because there's always an opportunity for a rally to happen. And the Cajuns were able to do that and ultimately pick up that game 1 victory 7-6. So we move on to Saturday, the 2:00 pitch, and Andrew Herman was impressive. The starting pitching was the strength of this game and is something that for UL as a whole can be a strong suit for them. Andrew Herman comes in. He goes 6 and a third inning. He only allows 2 hits and has 7 strikeouts as the Cajuns would pick up a 9-1 victory. So he was able to keep the Terps at bay and then allow the offense to get going and ultimately be able to pull away. Liamade was huge in this one. He had 3 RBI. Maddox Mendino had a 2 RBI double. Rigoberto Hernandez, again, coming up big, had a 2-run home run. We talked about that multiple times before. You're seeing it more and more that this young man, a former William and Carey NAIA member, has really come into his own as a really, really good hitter for you and has been an explosive part of your offense. And then Colt Brown, Amade, and Markle all had 2 hits each. On top of Andrew Herman giving you a great start, again, freshman Sawyer Pruitt continues to do what he needs to do. He is going to continue to be your midweek starter. But when you need him to come in on a Saturday in relief out of the bullpen, he can give you great work. 2 2/3 innings were scoreless, and that continues his strong streak this season. When you give the UL bullpen an opportunity, this team can continue to be dangerous. As long as they are able to have guys to be able to come out and can throw strikeouts and can fill up the zone and make it hard for batters to try to get clean hits, and that they're not, having as many pitches down the line, it's going to be really, really hard for teams to be able to beat them. Like I said, Andrew Herman gets the job done, only having 3 walks in this one as well and throwing 116 pitches. Sawyer Pruitt doing his work on 38 total pitches, facing 11 batters. Andrew Herman facing 25. Just an efficient way for these guys to get it all done and ultimately be able to lead them in this victory. So the Cajuns win the series with that Game 2 victory. And then here on Sunday is when they would go for the sweep. So I'm going to take a quick timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the freshman sensation that has been sweeping this team and has been a huge part of the success of Ragin Cajuns baseball. We'll talk about it when we come back here on Ragin Rundown. So before we went to break, we talked about how big this freshman class has been. And specifically, I want to talk about one of the freshmen that has earned a starting spot from day one and is likely going to play in that position the entire season. And that is Blaze Rodriguez. He got the bases loaded walk to walk it off in Game 1. And then he came up big once again in Game 3 to get you the sweep. So he is truly emerging as a star player for this team. And Coach Diggs talked about it in preseason, how high he was on this young man, comparing him to now Minnesota Twins member Cal DeBarge, former Ragin Cajun himself and a former All-American. So you're talking about one of the greats. So to have that type of comparison this early in his career is it goes without saying. Here in Game 3, Louisiana would pick up a 6-5 victory. They would go 15 innings. I think this game was well over 4 hours. It started at 1 o'clock, and when I was still looking at it, I think it was like 4:30, almost 5 o'clock. And eventually, I looked over and I said, "Oh, they won the game," because I was out running errands and all those things like that. So I saw that they had finally pulled off the victory, and I look at it and I see Blaze Rodriguez has come up big again, and he had a monster day. 5 hits. He hit the game-winning RBI, 5 hits on 7 at-bats, and he also drove in a run in the first inning. Other guys that came up big, Steven Spalita came up again. He was the one that was able to get on with a double in the 15th inning that ultimately Blaze Rodriguez was able to drive in there in the 15th. Rigoberto Hernandez, again, 2 hits, an RBI double. Colt Brown, Mr. If you put it in the zone, he's probably going to hit a double. Another freshman that has truly been sensational. I think the biggest 3 of this freshman class has been Sawyer Pruitt on the bump, Colt Brown behind the dish, and then Blaze Rodriguez there at shortstop. Very impressive group of freshmen, and these guys are going to continue to be able to contribute to the success of this team. It was a huge pitching duel late. I believe the pitcher that came in relief for Maryland went like 11 2/3 innings. I can't remember what his name was, but he was phenomenal. And UL really was kind of firing early on in this game as they scored 4 runs there in the second inning. And then after that, he would pitch one. So if he went 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scoreless innings that he was able to pitch. But on the other side of that, Louisiana had some great pitching out of their bullpen as well. Cody Brash comes in and gives you 5 strong innings. And then the Cajuns bullpen as a whole had 8 consecutive scoreless innings. Hayden Pearson would ultimately come in on the back half. The Ascension Episcopal product would earn his first career win. But kudos and a huge hat tip to Cody Brash. He's come in and proven, Coach Diggs said it, in post, on the radio broadcast, that it's something that's really interesting, and he's proven that he wants to be out there a little bit longer. Going those 5 innings, like I mentioned, allowing just 2 hits, 3 walks, and 6 punch-outs. J.R. Tolet obviously got the start. He had 7 punch-outs, but gave up 4 earned runs after going 6 innings. And normally with a relief pitcher, especially on a Sunday, you're trying to use as much of your bullpen to get the job done. And Cody Brash said, put it on my back. Let's do it. And if it wouldn't have been for your offense kind of stalling out near the back half because of great pitching on the other side, he probably wouldn't have needed to go those 5 innings, but he was available. And the best of ability is availability. And he was able to do that for you. Kudos to him. And then also Hayden Pearson and Parker Smith coming in on the back half. Hayden Pearson obviously getting the win as well. But overall, like I mentioned, Blaze Rodriguez is phenomenal. Right now, he is leading the team in batting average with a 370, and he's also leading in RBI with 7 on the season. He has already, in his young career, had clutch moments, and it's just proven that no matter the age of who is behind the plate or who is in the field, that if you've got talent, you're going to play. And Coach Diggs has talked about that before, and it is coming to life here as we're seeing this young man really becoming his own as a true superstar for the Ragin Cajuns baseball program. And as this freshman class continues to have a big impact, that means that the ceiling is as high as the sky. The sky is the limit for these young men because they are so young. And it gives you an opportunity to continue to build as you go along in this season. If they keep playing like this, especially with the bat of Blaze Rodriguez, my goodness, there's no telling where this team could be. Overall, what we can take away from this series is not only that Louisiana is resilient, not only have we seen that the bullpen can have really great showings, whether that's the start or near the finish, but they have a lot of offensive depth there. Rigoberto Hernandez, we've talked about him multiple times I feel like we're talking about him in every single episode when it comes to baseball. Blaze Rodriguez, we've already talked about it. Lee Amade has been a consistent guy for you during his entire career. Maddox Mendino, your leadoff guy, always is finding a way to get on base and then create chaos, stealing bases, and getting home in whatever way he needs to. Colt Brown, like I said, if you put it in the zone for him, he's going to swing at it, and it's likely going to be a double. It has been that, and if I'm not mistaken, he's leading the team in doubles right now. And then after that, you have Steve Spalita, who has been really, really strong for you as well. You have a lot of pitching depth, which we've talked about multiple times. You've got strong starters that have experience in playing in college baseball. Ty Roman obviously coming out of the junior college ranks, so he's feeling that Division I baseball speed, but he is continuing to come into his own as a Friday night starter. But then all of the guys behind them in the bullpen early on in the season, that first series with Missouri State, those guys took their lumps, and I believe that they've learned from that. And I'm not going to say that it's just an outlier series, but I'm going to say it's a learning experience. And even though Missouri State, I believe, is sitting at 3-4 on the season, they have a lot of big dudes that can just power hit and swing for the fences. And so by those pitchers facing guys like that, it puts them in a better position to know what they're up against as the season progresses moving forward. So you have a lot of depth on the offensive end in the pitching staff. And then mentally, you're able to withstand a game. And no matter what circumstance, whether you're up big or where you're behind and you need to continue along the stretch, this entire series, you were able to do all of that. You go to extra innings in game 3. You come from behind to walk it off in game 1. In game 2, you build up a lead and your bullpen holds you along to sustain that lead and you're able to win big. So mentally, you've proven that you can win in whatever way possible that you need to. And not to mention that Tuesday, you played against Rice and you won that game 3-0. So again, your bullpen was extremely strong for you. So this roster is not just a top heavy roster where it's just a handful of guys that can get it done. It's multiple guys that can help you be successful. And teams that are deep are teams that can win championships in college baseball. So Louisiana wins their 5th straight game. They sweep the series against Maryland. Now next up for them, not to mention you get a Power 4 victory beating Maryland in the series. Next up for them now is Kansas State on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you have UC San Diego in a weekend series at the Tigue. So we will be keeping our eyes on that as we continue here on Ragin Rundown, and we'll keep our eyes on this team and see how they progress throughout the 2026 campaign. That's going to wrap up this episode here of Ragin Rundown. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much, but please do me a favor, hit the bell down below and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, and leave a comment because I love interacting with you guys. And that's what helps grow this channel so much. If you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate us, and leave us a review because it will help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.